Hey everyone, this is Krista Moore with The Krista Moore Show, and I'm so excited that you joined us today. As you know, this show is brought to you by K Coaching and ID Growth, kind of as a new way to learn from industry experts and thought leaders. And you probably hear me say every week, you're going to love my guest. Well, I'm going to be bold today and make the statement that you are absolutely going to love my guest, I guarantee. I'd like to introduce to you Cesar Rodriguez. Cesar, why don't you meet the crowd? Hello,
So
hello.
this, so this is where you want me to put on my webcam, I presume.
That's right.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
there we are. Hey, great to see you. And
Great.
you're in North Carolina, right? You're in Wilmington, right down the
Yes,
road.
I am. Wilmington, North Carolina.
That's a beautiful place to live.
It is. That's why I chose it.
So I want you to tell the audience who you are.
Okay. So my name is Cesar Rodriguez. I essentially, at 21 years old, I was a broke college kid, and someone walked into a mall that I happened to be working at, and they prospected me for my first direct sales and network marketing opportunity. It was my first time doing anything like that. And I was absolutely horrible at sales. The first 100 people I talked to told me no. And all I was trying to sell was something that was $26. So imagine getting 100 no's in a row from everyone you know for 26 bucks. It was a serious wake up call to my credibility and my ability to sell. So I had a choice to make. It was either quit or keep going. And I saw so many people making unbelievable amounts of money, 30,000 plus dollars a month. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to figure this thing out. So I went on a serious personal development journey. Went to tons of seminars, spent lots of money investing in myself. And I went from being a 21-year-old broke college kid to making my first million by 29. And ever since then, I have spent the rest of my years giving back and teaching everything that I can to everyone else that I know. So I've got 100 plus YouTube videos out there, tons of content, blogs, training. So I am now an entrepreneur, or I've always been an entrepreneur, I suppose. I'm the leader of the B10xB Movement, the creator of B10xB, which is why I'm dripping with all of this swag. And I'm an online personality and trainer to salespeople, network marketers, and entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So I'm happy that you even took the time to be on our show today. But Joyce, who works with us, is one of your clients and you're her coach. And ever since she met you, she's completely changed. She's now walking into the office way bolder, ready to go. And I've been really impressed with just that outcome. I know when she came back from her weekend in Wilmington, she was just beaming. So I'd like to better understand, and for our audience, what is this B10xB stuff? Like, what's this all about?
What's it all about? Okay, great question. So years ago, when I was, going to build my business, like I mentioned, I got 100 no's in a row, and that wasn't the stop. That wasn't the stop of the no's. That was just where I stopped keeping track. And I, in my pursuit to get to where I am today, one of the things that I did was I packed up everything that I had and I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, where my mentor happened to live. I was at the time living in Roanoke, Virginia, and I then made a very bold decision, and I said to him, I said, listen, if I pack up and move and break my lease and move down there, will you allow me to just follow you around and watch you on the weekends? Because he had a house in Raleigh and he had a beach house in, here on the ocean front. So he said yes. I came down and I began to learn from him, watching him prospect, watching him talk to people and break the ice, because I essentially didn't have anyone else to talk to about my business unless it was going to be complete strangers. But like many people, I was very still scared and nervous, and I feared rejection still. I hadn't completely gotten over that, and I cared a lot what people thought. And one of the things that held me back from, my prospecting efforts was, just that fear and that anxiety and that self-doubt. And I realized that the reason why is because we all have these voices that are in our head, or, this voice, I call it the weakness. And it's all just your subconscious mind trying to protect you and keep you in your comfort zone where it's nice and safe, right? You can't get hurt when you're in your safe little bubble of your comfort zone. But unfortunately, you also can't grow. So what I realized was I needed to find a way to get over that voice and to power through so that I could meet more people, so that I could prospect more people, so that when someone gave me an objection, I could be bolder to overcome it. And one of the things that I realize is, how the mind works. And it's all just neuro associations and shortcuts that your brain creates. So in the middle of me feeling fear, indecision, doubt, I realized that the only way to conquer that is to do what is called as a pattern interrupt in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. And whenever the voice would come into my head of, don't talk to this person, or don't do this, or, there's what if they say no, or whatever, I would just ask myself, I came up with a question to ask, and it was, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder? Yeah. And the B10xB. So whenever I would feel fear, anxiety, indecision, apprehension, self-doubt, or any other disease of attitude, I would just say, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder? And whatever I would come up with, I would do it. And the way that you make that a habit and you become bolder is you can get a little rubber wristband, or I decided to get these little hands. Yeah, you're in the club. You're down with the club. I like it. I like the shirt too. Fan it out for him.
Thank you.
Yeah. Looking good.
Yeah, I had to wear it today. I was quite bold because when I got out of the shower this morning, I thought, I'm interviewing this guy, and I'm thinking, how can I be bolder? And I thought, well, I'll wear his gear.
Yeah.
I'll take the sunglasses. This is part of your swag too. And I even left my hair naturally curly instead of drying it straight, because I thought that was kind of bold of me. Normally I don't do that. There you go. You've already had an impact.
Bam. Yeah. And so these wristbands, and the reason why I got them is because I learned that if you link pain, the reason that we don't do things, Krista, is, the reason we get paralyzed in these moments is often because we associate pain with going out there and talking to people, so especially like when you're in sales, you're like, oh, it's painful to go do this because it might lead to rejection. So what you can do is you can actually rewire your brain by linking pain to not acting boldly. So when you ask that question, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder? Whatever you come up with, you have to do it. It's like a game that you play. Yeah. And if you don't do it, you pull back on this little wristband.
And you hurt yourself.
On your wrist. Yeah. And what it does is actually it's a brain trainer. It literally trains your brain, and it links pain to not acting boldly. So the next time you get in those situations after enough painful snaps, you will start making those bolder decisions.
You actually have people doing this?
Thousands, yeah.
I think it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
When I think about that pain and that difficulty making a decision, one of the things that comes to mind is usually it's when we hit rock bottom, right? Or we know that there's something we really want to change, but we're afraid to make a shift or a change that's pretty significant. I would think that there's just times in our lives when this question could be life altering, just completely go down a different path. Is that what you're saying?
Completely. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because out of all of the things that I've talked about over the years, whenever I would step on stage and I would do talks, I'd always have people say, hey, are you going to do the B10xB talk? So, as you may or may not know, I do lots of, trainings for companies. And obviously I do retreats at my home as well, kind of high ticket stuff for my coaching students. But I posted a video on B10xB years ago, back in 2011. And when I saw this thing rack up 100,000 views on YouTube, and I started to just get inundated with all these messages and letters and comments and emails and Facebook messages and Instagram messages, people saying, man, B10xB's changed my life. B10xB's changed my life. I knew that this was something that I originally did it for myself. And when I saw it working in my life, and it was the one thing that turned my life and my business around, being 10 times bolder. And when I got all these little rubber B10xB wristbands, I gave them out to my team, and I saw my entire sales organization explode, because everyone was asking himself on a perpetual basis, what would you do if you're 10 times bolder? What would you do if you're 10 times bolder? So that created an activity. In fact, just the other day, my most recent video at the time of this filming, I just had a guy get a B10xB tattoo, and I just did a video on this. And this is because he was an insurance agent, and his sales manager gave him a B10xB wristband a year ago, and he gave him a wristband, and he gave one to everyone at his insurance office. And this guy looked up the video, saw it, started asking himself that question, what would I do if I was 10 times bolder, every single day, multiple times a day. And he went out there and he made a commitment to hand out 10 to 15 business cards every day in his prospecting efforts. And anytime that he would shun away from doing that, he said that he'd pull back on his wristband really hard. Like if he saw someone and he was like, I should give that person a card, and he didn't, he'd pull back on it super hard, rip that thing. He said that he'd pull it back so hard it would create like a welt. And what ended up happening is he went from being basically like, average in his office to last year having his first year breaking the 6-figure marker. And, this year already, he's on track to do even more than he did last year, and he's better and he's sharper. And he just got, they're talking about promoting him to now be like a trainer for all the other agents in his office. So it's a thing that's
a great story. It's a great story. It really has to be rewarding for you to kind of see this come to life and get people to come back and say, hey, I've tried it, it worked. And I mean, a tattoo is pretty committed, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I've had people say that, like, message me and say I met my fiance because there was a super hot girl that was at the bar and she's surrounded by 7 guys, and I didn't want to say anything, but
I'm over there smacking my wrist.
Yeah, what would I do if I was 10 times bolder? And he met that girl, and sure enough, he sent me a picture. And he's like, hey man, I thought this girl was way out of my league. He told me the story, and but sure enough, he ended up meeting her. She ended up liking him. She loved his boldness and his confidence, and he showed me a picture of the two of them, and I was like, bro, good job.
That's great.
Good job.
That's great. Well, when I think about this whole B10xB, it is a mindset shift, right? I mean, and it could be used for sales as you're describing, but you just spoke about, a personal story that someone found a fiance because of it. So it's not just for sales. What are some other areas that you're seeing kind of the B10xB played out?
Well, honestly, everywhere, in every area of your life, personal, business. In fact, I have a course, when someone orders 5 of these wristbands, we have something that's called a B10xB starter kit, so you can get a pack of these, they're for $25, you get 2 stickers, you get 5 wristbands. And one of the things that you get is I created a course. Now I've got several training courses on sales and persuasion on my blog. I think you'll probably give out my site. It's just my name, CesarRodriguez.com. So that's one of my fortes is creating training programs. But I actually have a training program that's called B10xB Bootcamp that this is of course valued at $297. And it's like my gift to the world. I put this together and I show how to be 10 times bolder in every area of your life, how to be 10 times bolder as a parent, how to be 10 times bolder in your spiritual walk, how to be 10 times bolder in, business, personal, social, dating, literally every area. There's no way, that being 10 times bolder won't lead to an unbelievable increase in your success and your happiness. Because if you think about it, everything in your life that you're happy about, excited about, or grateful for came as a result of a bolder moment. Right. I mean, look at you, Krista. I mean, I'm sure you could look back at just the fact that you're doing this show. One day when you're the next Oprah,
How did you know that?
How did I know that?
No, it's so true, Cesar, because I remember one day I was sitting there kind of bored and thinking, what can I do better or different? I'm not really having a whole lot of fun. And then I did a little bit of a mindset shift because I was saying, well, what do I love and what am I great at? And that I'm not using those gifts, that I'm not giving those gifts back like I should. I was born, with these gifts that need to be given, right? And so one day I said, well, I always wanted to have my own talk show, so I will. And I'm going to call it The Krista Moore Show because I can. So I think I didn't have anything to really remind me of what would life be if I didn't have it. But I was able to create a mindset about the possibilities. in terms of how I would be or how I would feel by, being more bold, right? By just doing what I've always really wanted to do. And something was holding me back.
Yeah. I mean,
I have Joyce sitting beside me, and we decided we're going to do it like the Howard Stern show, where there is someone off stage talking in a microphone. So Joyce was sharing a couple stories actually with me, how she used the B10xB at home. Why don't you tell us how you used it with your daughter just last weekend?
Okay, so last weekend, I've been sharing this concept with my kids because obviously they've seen a difference in me. And I have been wearing my wristband, which you can see ever since I got it.
Put your face in the camera.
And show me your shirt.
Oh
Just let everyone see how pretty you are. Oh, and look at this shirt.
Talk to the camera.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I've taught this to my children who, they've got a lot of personal development from me, but this was one thing that I shared it with them. And when the package came, they were all excited and they're like, ooh, what's in that? And they started grabbing as soon as I opened it. And I'm like, nope, hands off. But anyway, so I've been using this concept with them. So my daughter was invited to be an extra on a movie set this past weekend. And we were standing around and she was kind of nervous. She's never done that before, but she is an aspiring actress, dancer, singer, performer. And they would say, okay, so we need 6 extras down here. And she'd be standing there and she'd look at me like deer in the headlights. And I was like, Hannah, they're asking for extras. And she's like, well, I don't know if they wanted me. And I whispered in her ear, I was like, B10xB, B10xB, B10xB. And she was like, okay. And she went down there and jumped in and she got into the scene. And, I'm like, you got to jump in there. You got to put yourself out there and B10xB. And I said, I'm not always going to be whispered in your ear, but I want you to hear my voice, B10xB. And so she actually got into 2 different scenes as an extra on the movie. So
I love that story. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. You know what it makes me think of is, gosh, if we could train the kids young, right? I mentioned to you earlier about my whole philosophy on be 10 again, or your 10-year-old self, and going back to figure out who you are authentically at your core. But what if at that innocent age of 10, we started to make sure that mindset was established early on, and that they're able to keep it throughout their life. I mean, when I think about that, she's never forget that moment.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, when you think about it as children, a lot of the times while we as adults have, a fear of talking to other people and, approaching strangers and doing things like that, it's because if you think about the conditioning that so many of us have received in school and from, parents and grandparents, and just, it's like, hey, wait till your turn to talk, raise your hand, don't talk to strangers, right? You get slapped on your hand, like, talk to strangers, what are you doing? So, I mean, what happens is it's like we grow up with all of these wirings of it's painful to talk to strangers. And when you start doing this, it's painful to not talk to strangers. Mm-hmm. You start to rewire those neuro associations and what your brain associates pain and pleasure with. And it's part of the reason why in that starter kit that I saw, I think.
We've got a sample of it here. And then I pulled this out too, because I thought this was really cool.
Yeah, that's why I even make, when you get one of those starter kits for $25, we mail them all around the world. It's done in a fun comic book type of fashion. In the little story, if you can maybe hold that up to the camera so people can see, it's like, it's like a fun little comic book, and it's designed so that someone young, like a little kid, could literally find this thing and read it and be like, how to be 10 times bolder in 5 steps. So I'm all about helping, not just salespeople and entrepreneurs and network marketers and, adults. I also wanted to make the message clear enough that, a kid could read it and get it, because it's so important. If we can get people and children at a young age, being on this bandwagon, and listen, being bold, I even say at the back of that, at the end of it, like, don't mistake boldness for rudeness.
I was just going to say that, and I didn't read it, because I think when those kids are younger, they're taught not to be, bossy or rude Or like you say
Right.
here, be
Yeah,
bold but not rude, be bold but not mean, be bold but not reckless.
absolutely.
That's part of what they would need to understand that definition of bold, and bold isn't bad. Bold's good.
Bold
So
is
I think that
bold is
that's an
beautiful.
important thing to acknowledge. Pardon me?
I said, yeah. I said, no, I agree. I said, bold is, it's beautiful. It's
Bold is
confidence.
beautiful.
Fortune favors the bold.
Isn't there a show called The Bold and the Beautiful? Soap
There,
opera.
there,
Soap
there
opera,
was,
yeah.
yeah,
I've
that
never
was so
watched
fun.
it, but
Yeah,
I guess they are. I'd
that's
like to hear a little bit more what you would tell someone who's listening today, how they can, kind of aside from the reminder of pain, what can they do personally to start to change their mindset? And maybe they do need to up level their skills, similar to what you did whenever you first, you know, were seeking a mentor and kind of shadowing someone. What are your thoughts there?
you know, so there's a lot of things that someone could and should do. Now, one of the reasons why I start with B10xB in any talk that I do that has to do with success and becoming a better version of yourself is because if you think about it, there are three enemies to success. And I didn't make this up. This is in the book Think and Grow Rich. And it's fear, indecision, and doubt. And you cannot be successful if you don't learn how to conquer these three enemies of success. And if you think about it, being bold or boldness literally conquers every one of them. Fear, indecision, and doubt. If you just ask yourself, what would you do if you're 10 times bolder? You'll power through every one of those. You'll come up with an answer. And if you do what it is that you come up with, you'll start to get some experiences. And a lot of times the experience will be, hey man, the person said no. And then you realize, like, wait a second, I'm not shot. Like, I'm still alive. Like, this
That's right.
is real pain. This was all in my mind. So you start to step into those fears, and you start to, all of a sudden, they start to diminish. Now, when you get good results, and all of a sudden you do it, and then, like Joyce just said, the daughter gets the role of the extra. She's starting her career from being, an actor, right? And then one day when she's a famous actor, she's looking back and she's like, yeah, man, that lesson that my mom taught me. So it's like now we start to have pleasure associated to being bold. But one of the things that I would recommend anyone do is the reason that I even know these things is because I read some books.
Mm-hmm.
I did personal development. If you find a mentor, I would find someone who has done what you want to do and is where you want to be. And if you do what they tell you to do, and if you do what they've done, you'll get what they've got. Simple rule. Modeling knowledge is one of the fastest ways to learn, meaning find someone who has that type of success and model them, right? That's what I did. I literally uprooted my life and I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina to watch my mentor prospect because I wanted to see him in action. And that's also the reason why my passion is to impact the masses and to help as many people as I can. But I realize that there are people that can't do that. There are people that, like can't afford to just pick up and move and to get and to be near me to watch me prospect. So the courses that I create, some of the sales training courses I create, like one of them is Reality Networker Prospecting Mastery. It's literally you watch me prospect in the streets through the eyes of hidden camera.
So people are watching you. You're doing the same thing that was done for you, which is that modeling, and then they can watch it and follow that way.
That is one of my courses. I mean, all of my courses are very unique and they're like nothing that anyone else has ever seen before. I mean, you can ask Joyce. She's seen a bunch of them and been through them.
I think he went to a mall with you and walked around a mall while you had a camera and a microphone,
Yeah.
and you were prospecting
Yes.
and showing her the ropes on that. And
Absolutely.
now she's so fired up about it. She's teaching other people how to do it.
She is. And now Joyce, from coming to that retreat, that I did, and I'll tell you, I mean, Joyce, do you mind if I say what you invested in this?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, to spend 4 days with me in my house, to go to this retreat, I mean, it's a $15,000 investment, and that's the lowest that it'll ever be, and Joyce, was it worth it?
Oh, 100 times over.
So
Absolutely. Changed my life, changed my business, changed my kid's life. I mean,
Changed you.
yeah. People that have known me for a long time, after I came back, they're like, I've never seen you like this. I've never heard you speak like that. You have so much more confidence. And I'm having more fun too, all the way
yeah,
around. So,
completely. And now Joyce is actually teaching and training this stuff.
Yeah, that's what makes it great.
You just started a coaching program. Last night was your first night coaching, wasn't it, Joyce? How'd it go?
yeah, it's actually going to be tonight.
Oh, is it tonight? Okay.
Yeah, first tonight.
Well, I'm excited to hear. But not everyone has the financial wherewithal to do that. And even, and for a lot of people, that's a stretch. So I try my best to create products and experiences that allow people that, because back in the day, I wouldn't have had that kind of money as a 22-year-old kid. I had to break my lease and uproot and move to North Carolina to do that. I mean, I didn't have a lot of money, but I wasn't afraid to go into debt and get close to that zero marker and put money on credit cards and all that, because I was young and hungry. But not a lot of people have that. But, most people can scrounge up a couple $100 to buy a program that gives them experience. So,
And what you've done though is, sure, you've got to make a living and you have a business and you're an entrepreneur. I get that, but you're also giving away a lot of free things, right? You're giving away a lot of knowledge. You're giving back to the world what you learned, and that to me, feels very authentic. And that's kind of what I like about it. Now, the idea of taking an idea and making it a movement. How do you go from one place to another? I think there's people on this call that would like to know that, and I personally would.
sure. So to create a movement, I mean, number one, it needs to be something that you're very passionate about, and it's not something that you're gonna just start and stop. Um, for me, this B10xB movement, it's almost as if it chose me, and as maybe hokey as that may sound, uh, you have to keep in mind, I'm a guy that, I came up with this idea. It helped me to overcome my fears. It helped to change my life. So I started teaching my team. And when I saw all how their lives were changed, I was like, hey, this is really cool. And then I shot a video of me talking about it on YouTube. And the video is, I think it's called how to eliminate the fear, eliminate the fear of rejection, anxiety, indecision, or something like that. But it's all inside of my Facebook group, too. I've got that video, a bunch of other videos. And it's inside my course if you get the B10xB boot camp, which comes when you get a starter kit. But for me, I really didn't mean to start a movement at first. At first, it was just like, let me just get this message out. And then when I started to just see how passionate other people were about it, and the stories just started to pour in, I just thought to myself, I said, something, I'm going to go all in on this because this is kind of my gift back to the world. This is my legacy. This is something that every person that it touches, every person that this touches, every single person that I've ever met has had one of these wristbands has a story, and they have multiple stories. And so for me, I was like, I need to get this out to more people. And there was a time, Krista, where I was literally, people were like sending me messages because they saw my video on YouTube before I was like selling these bands worldwide. People would see my video and they're like, how do I get a wristband? I love this. And I would just be like, just to be cool, I'd just be like, give me your mailing address and just like PayPal me, like $10. And I would literally go to the post office every day or every couple of days. And I was mailing out these wristbands and waiting like in line at the post office for like Lord knows how long to send someone a wristband in Australia, and to send someone one in the UK, and to send someone one in Canada, and send someone. And I was like, this is exhausting, and I was like, I need to set up a distribution center for this. And then I asked myself, you know what, Cesar, if you're going to take the time to set all that up, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder? And I thought to myself, well, if I was 10 times bolder, I wouldn't just sell wristbands. I would sell shirts and hats, and I would make it an entire movement, and I would make it cool, and I would make it fun, and I would make it something that people are excited about. Now, B10xB is inherently viral because when someone starts living this life and they jump on this bandwagon, they want to get all their friends on it, right? They want their other friends, they want the conversation with their friends to be like, yo, what'd you do if you're 10 times bolder? Oh, dude, I did this 10 times bolder thing, And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that this is because I knew people would do that. I wanted to create a community as well. So so for people to share their stories, not just with their buddies and keep it private, but so that someone like Joyce, when she has a cool story like that, she could share it inside of our Facebook group. So I created a Facebook group.
It's almost contagious, right?
It is, yeah, it really is. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I mean, you can make a movement with things that are not necessarily inherently contagious and exciting to talk about. Like if you look at the ALS bucket challenge, that, I mean, that was like an entire challenge in a movement where people were dumping freezing cold water on their heads if they didn't like tag 5 people or call 10 people out. And I saw one with push-ups and stuff like that. So I mean, you can kind of do with enough marketing and energy and attention, you can kind of make anything move.
What I have to say though is I think the reason it's working is because it did find you.
Yeah.
So it's that idea that is yours, that you've seen it work, and you're getting the affirmation from others that it really does work, and it's a way for you to impact the world, and you're the guy to do it. I have a question for you because I like to ask my guests this because I'm passionate about an idea, which I mentioned to you before about B10 again, right? And how odd is it that, B10 again and B10xB, it's just funny how that all came together.
Yeah, those B10s, man.
I'd like to know what you were doing when you were 10 and how that might have impacted who you are today.
Yeah, well, I can tell you pretty vividly because one of the things that I got in trouble for when I was 10 years old is selling candy to my fellow students. And there was a guy named Kevin Conrad, and I remember he started selling, candy to other kids, and he was selling them for like 25 cents, a pop, and I was like, that's a good idea. I was like, I should do something like that too, So I saw the idea, and I was like, this will be cool. I'll sell Jawbreakers and atomic fireballs, which to this day, still atomic fireballs are one of my favorite candies, probably just because of the memory, right?
Sure.
So I went out there and I went to my mom and I was like, hey, I need you to take me to the store. And I also sold Airheads too. That was another candy. And I remember that I went to my mom, I was like, hey, I need you to take me to the store. I'm going to buy a bunch of candy and I'm going to sell it. So my mom, being the awesome, supportive mom that she was like, okay, let's do it. So she took me down there and I bought a bunch of candy, put it in my book bag. And then all of a sudden I started hustling, candy for 25 cents a piece. And I was out there, doing it. And, I was so aggressive with it that, the principal actually ended up like making announcements over like the loudspeakers and like, hey, you're not allowed to sell candy in school, just like a FYI. If you're caught doing it, you can get in trouble. Because other people also, I wasn't the only one. It was like he kind of like was the first person I saw doing it, so I kind of took his idea. And then I think there were some other people. So then it was kind of like, like the little candy wars like in our school, and it was all about like, hustling and getting your turf and your clientele. So I mean, I can remember getting in trouble and getting busted for it. It was kind of like, I was a little candy dealer, and
That's pretty funny.
Get off my block. That's my customer, yo.
Yeah. Well, and that's that entrepreneurial spirit, right, that you had at a very young age that you're able to bring out in your adult life today.
Yeah. It's
one last question for you. We are going to make sure that we give everyone information on how they can reach out to you and get involved in the movement and all of that. But I'm wondering, and people have asked you this before, I'm certain, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder, and what's next for you?
So I'm doing it, I'm doing my 10 times bolder idea. My 10 times bolder idea was to start this movement and to create an entire clothing line around it, which, as you can see, we've got, the shirts that you ladies are rocking so wonderfully. We've got tank tops, we've got hats on the way, and underneath every one of these hats, if you see, it says underneath it, what would you do if you were 10 times bolder?
I like that.
Yeah, so whenever you're looking at it, all you have to do is you just look up and it reminds you. And I mean, these are all completely custom. So we've got a shipment of these on the way. And this entire thing, it's an entirely new business and an entirely new world for me. I'm in the business of information, and information products where there's no physical product. It's just literally ideas. I charge for coaching, I charge for retreats, I charge for what's in here. I've never had to deal with any type of friction of like, oh wait, we're out of small shirts, I need to make another order. I've never had to deal with that. And I love that digital world. But this is something that for me, this was my 10 times bolder thing, because I was like, well, I don't know anything about doing this. And what would you do if you're 10 times bolder? Would you do it anyway and you'd figure it out? So I'm in the middle of doing that. And again, I also have an entirely other business, where the business of Cesar Rodriguez and my company, Sales School Inc. Sales SKOOL Inc. But I mean, it's not like you find anything under that there. That's what all my products are run through. So it's like I'm constantly working on, my marketing and my sales funnels and, and all that type of stuff. And I constantly come up with ideas on things. And it's for myself, I'm an implementer. So I mean, even just this morning, I was like, you know what, I should probably start a social media marketing agency, just like an idea like that. And, within 2 weeks, I could have it up and running. And I know that I could have that company being very successful if I wanted to. But it's a matter of, do I start something else or do I just stay focused? So
yeah, and doing what you want to do, like doing what kind of your heart's desire is, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing for me. It's, someone mentioned, they were like, man, you're selling these things for $5. They're like, are you going to make any money doing that? And I was like, I mean, of course, I'm going to make a fortune doing anything that I do, because if I'm passionate about it, and I make the impact the priority, the money is an offset. The money is just a byproduct of, of how many lives that you change. But I also don't really care. Like, I was like, dude, you're like, it's true. Like, I don't care about the money on this. This is like my legacy. This is one day it'll be a multi-million-dollar clothing line and everyone will be like, oh my God, I remember seeing that B10xB thing on Chris's show. I think she was the first person to interview Cesar on B10xB, or, on her talk show or whatever. And, and it's like, that's like, to me, I think that's like one of the coolest things in the world. It's like when you don't care about the money. And the way to get there, though, is, I mean, I did honestly, I mean, I've accumulated a lot of money by not caring about the money, so.
Great advice. And really, this is really good stuff for me to hear right now. I'm ready to quit my day job and do something different. So my husband will appreciate that at the end of the day when I tell him, popping my wrist and then telling him what my new plans are. But we are out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you for a very long time. I'll make sure that I stay connected with you, and I want to show our audience the best way to stay in touch with you as well. So if you'll bring up that screen, that'd be great. And what do you suggest? What's the best way?
So I am probably those pages right there. I mean, if you look right there, CesarLRodriguez.com, that's actually my blog. So if you go to my website, that's where you can see some of the different videos. I mean, I have 100+ videos on YouTube that I post to my blog as well. So you can kind of search and organize through stuff there. You can type in like prospecting and see my prospecting videos, or closing. You can see stuff there. I have, obviously you've got my email and all that. One of the things that, if you put the letter L in between Cesar and Rodriguez, so my middle initial is L for Leonardo. If you type in Cesar L. Rodriguez, like in Instagram, like I'm doing stuff on Instagram how often am I posting stories on Instagram, Joyce?
Very frequently, and they're very entertaining.
Post one on our show so we can get people to rewatch it. I think that there's a lot of folks that are watching it today that wish they had someone that they knew also kind of watching the show. So we'll get this out there.
Yeah, for sure. But that one website, I think you just took it down. But b10xb.com/start. That is where you can get a B10xB starter kit. There's a video on there. You can also join our Facebook group. So that page will take you to a place where you can get a starter kit. From there, you can also, it'll take you to our store. You can shop around if you want to go ahead and, get shirts, shades, anything else like that. Those cool stunner shades. And those are some really nice, hold those up close to the camera. Those are like polarized.
Yeah.
I mean, those are,
Yeah.
I mean, those are designed. Look at the pink wood grain. Yeah, I've got them in black, pink, and blue right now. Oh, look at you. You guys look like, remember the Blues Brothers? You guys are like the Blues sisters.
Gonna show our shirt.
Yeah. We're going to take
be dripping and swag like that for anyone watching. But honestly,
hey, we want to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to sharing this video with a lot of other people and carry on this movement that you have. So,
yes, thank you so much. The Blues sisters.
Bye-bye.
Take care, guys. Thanks for everyone watching.
Yeah, take care.
It was fun.
Hey, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show today, and I'm really looking forward to next week's guest as well. So we like to shake it up and do different things all the time. But next week, I have the Area Vice President of Facilities Solutions at Staples. Her name is Riley Daltrey, and she's a very young female leader within that large organization. And we're going to swap stories. We're going to be sharing leadership for women from the past to the present, and just learn ways that you can up-level your game and be an effective leader in your organization. So stay tuned for next week, and I look forward to that. In the meantime, always check out our recordings, share the link to register. Once you register once, you can join in our show anytime. Take care.